Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. Welcome to our show that's for you and about you. Those of you that work so hard for your money and you want your money to start working harder for you right now. You want that freedom, cash flow, and prosperity today, not 30 or 40 years from now, but right now to live that life that you love, doing what you love with those that you love. But most importantly, guys, about living a life of meaning and purpose, because as you are blessed financially, you have the greater ability to create an impact in the lives of others. And guys, I appreciate you allowing me to create that ripple effect through you. Man, I've loved seeing how much this show has grown. So thank you for binging and sharing and better yet, implementing and living this stuff, right? So thank you so much for tuning in. As always, check our website, moneyripples.com. If you're in a situation where you say, Chris, we got at least 150 grand of cash is sitting around, or we got at least a couple hundred grand of home equity, and how do we get it to where we can actually work because we want to, not because we have to? How do we create that game plan? You can reach out to our website. Just go to the contact us page and we can help you out there. So check that out.
Chris Miles was able to retire twice by the time he was 39 years old. But he's not content to just enjoy his own financial freedom and peace of mind. Chris wants you to have your own ripple effect so you can live free today. He's not the financial advisor you expected. He's the anti-financial advisor you deserve. He's jumping behind the mic right now, ready to make waves. Here's Chris Miles.
All right, guys. So today I've got a special guest, someone who I've known for the last few years that I've been able to work with and had that wonderful privilege, but she's a rock star in her own right. And so I wanted to bring her on. So really, I'm bringing on Whitney Hutten here for you guys. A little bit about her. She's out in the great state of Colorado, so just next door to me from here in Utah. She's a real estate maven who, after purchasing her first rental in 2002, hit a major home run. So naturally, the next time, it wasn't so great. So she decided to take control. She got it figured out, doing real estate more the right way, right? And she realized that success must leave clues. So she studied and replicated the very personal finance and wealth creation strategies the wealthy used to create financial freedom for herself. So, Whitney, welcome to our show.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So give us a little bit of backstory. I mean, obviously the last, 2 decades, really, you've been doing real estate and like all of us, if you've been doing it long enough, you got bumps and bruises, but you've learned a lot too. But help us fill in the gaps of more about who Whitney is.
Yeah, from a real estate perspective, I got started in 2002 completely by accident. I bought a house with a significant other, and about a month after we closed, the relationship fell apart. And it's like, uh-oh, I have a house. I have to pay for the whole thing because it was all under my name. And a little bit of panic set in. So I was young and didn't have any other ties. So I stuffed the property full of roommates, and then I'm like, wow, I need to do a rehab on this property. So fortunately, my roommates were pretty cool. They didn't mind living in a construction zone. And so this is before YouTube. So I went to Home Depot and bought the Home Depot 1, 2, 3 book and learned how to do everything myself and learned the things that I shouldn't be doing, like plumbing and drywall. That's a whole other story. But fast forward 11 months later, I turned that property for a $52,000 profit. But what's even more powerful is I hadn't been paying the mortgage. My roommate's been paying the mortgage, and I'd been pocketing cash. And it wasn't really until after I closed that property, I'm like, wow, how many more of these can I do? Thinking I was a hot shot, I moved into the second property and tried to replicate the exact same thing. Didn't go so well. There were some very fundamental principles of real estate that I had ignored, like number one, location. Anyways, but took my bumps and bruises, and fortunately, didn't go completely upside down on that property. And a few years later, my husband joined me in my antics, as I call it. We realized we didn't have financial freedom. And I think that's where you and I met. We had just started kind of dabbling our toes in investment real estate, buy and hold real estate. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is what's going to get me on the path to financial independence. But all my funds are locked up in my 401k. Chris, help. help me figure this out. Like, we knew we had the funds, we knew we had the money. We had been saving, for 10 years, living off of one income. And so Yeah, and that's really where you and I met, and you just really kind of threw some gas on that fire that was already starting to burn. And fast forward, I think over the next 2 years of us working together, we scaled up to 30 single family properties, and then that's when we made the transition to multifamily, because my
Right.
husband wanted to be able to step away from his job.
Hmm.
And we were just like, 80 single family properties, probably not for us. We need to get more doors with each transaction. And so,
Yeah.
the past couple of years, I've been working in apartment syndications.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So kind of take us through the process you've learned, right? Like what helped you take those first steps? Like obviously, I mean, you did the whole renovation and everything yourself with that one property, but what got you to really start to grow more doors when you got into the multiple doors? What was that mental process you had to go through slash, even, crying or, pain, or was it just super easy? You're like, this makes sense. Let's do it. What was it like for you?
Yeah. So we actually hit an inflection point, so to
Mhm.
speak. And it was really, my husband works for the government, and we actually, we'd already gone through a couple furloughs. We had a small child at home. And
Mhm.
so when my husband went on furlough, we now only had one paycheck coming in.
Right.
And so we were like, we've have this bucket of equity that we keep building, but
Mhm.
it's stuck in 401ks. We can't leverage it now. We don't have any cash flow coming in. And like, and I don't know if you guys remember this, and I'm blanking on the year, but there was one year, it was like 7 weeks over Christmas holiday that my husband was on a furlough.
Wow.
Fortunately, we had savings, stacked up, so we weren't really sweating it too much. But we were just like, okay, that's it, never again. This is just for the birds. We got to figure out how to do, start making cash flow.
Yeah.
And a couple of our friends had been purchasing rentals locally here in Colorado. They weren't making cash flow, but the tenants were paying rent to, pay down the mortgage.
Mhm.
And so eventually they were building buckets of equity. And I'm like, well, why don't we just go to another market where the cash flow is way better?
Yeah.
And so that's where we had started. I think we purchased 4 properties in Indianapolis and then 2 in
Mhm.
Kansas City, and then we kind of got stuck because we couldn't figure out how to leverage the rest of the funds that we had. But it was really, so the inflection point for us was one of pain, right? We
Yeah.
knew we had the money. If it was sitting in the bank, it was like losing, eroding during, due to inflation. And honestly,
Yeah.
I couldn't even told you that was happening. I think you helped me realize that.
Uh-huh.
And then 2, it's just like, it wasn't generating, we weren't leveraging it, putting it to work for us by leveraging cash flow. So
Yeah. So that pain was kind of that point of like, hey, something needs to change here, right? And
yeah, we just weren't in our control. I mean, we are
yeah.
also facing, I think about a year later, we were facing potentially, government pensions were on the chopping block. And,
Right.
that would be a lot for those to go away.
Mhm.
However, but you just realize just how out of control you really are of like
Yeah.
your financial future. And I was just like, yeah, okay, 401ks are nice, pension plans are okay, but I need assets that are in my control that I can do with what I want.
Yeah. Well, it's true because pension, you have to wait till whatever age they tell you to wait till, right? And then
Yeah.
you said the 401k, you found out even when he's being furloughed, well, if the 401k is locked up, I can't do anything with that. So what do we do? Right. It's almost as if you didn't have the money in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, we could take a loan against it, but oh, guess what? You got to start paying that loan back next month plus
Uh-huh.
interest. We were like, but he doesn't have a job right now. I mean, he has
Yeah.
a job, but he's not getting paid. But anyways, yeah. So we were just like, we need to go about this entirely differently. I mean, when we were looking at some of our friends that had like rentals and what they were striving to replicate, and even just, quite simply, picking up, a few books about, all these other, real estate gurus, we're just like, it's simple. It's not easy
Yeah.
to get into real estate. And it was something that I understood, right? I had already been, doing live-in flipping and house hacking. Like I knew how to buy a house. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. So I had lived with roommates. I rented it out. I'm like, okay, I can do this. So it was kind of like really a gliding path after that for us to, just continue to scale up the portfolio. But every every step, every time you hit a ceiling achievement, you got to figure out how to reorganize your systems. And,
Yep.
we got to 4 homes and we had to figure out how to save up more money to meet the lending requirements. And then we hit 7 homes and there's yet another set of underwriting requirements for lending. We hit 10, guess what? Who's going to get the homes now? Is your spouse on board?
Right.
So
you
yeah,
leverage their credit.
Fortunately, my husband very much was on board with that. Not all spouses are. I totally get it.
That's great. Yeah, there's always a new set of rules as you hit the next level, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, but for me, I love solving puzzles, and those are the puzzles that I really enjoy trying to solve.
Yeah. So today, like you said, you're doing more with multifamily. Like, what do you feel like you're doing right now? Like, what's your next thing?
Yeah. So, I spent the past few years really focusing on building our portfolio on what I kind of call syndication, multifamily, commercial real estate syndications. And you think of it as turnkey for multifamily. So we still have our single family rental portfolio. I treat it like an ATM. So I take the cash flow, continue to reposition the equity out of that portfolio to essentially get into larger real estate, like playing Monopoly, was it 4 greenhouses equal a red hotel, or is it 4 red houses equal a green hotel, right?
Yep.
We have the camping version now, so I'm kind of like losing track on like what the original Monopoly game is, but so that's what we're focused on right now. And we've expanded that part of our portfolio fairly well, that I need to actually kind of go backwards and rebalance it with some single family. I mean, I think this is a wonderful time to lock in low interest rate debt and sit on the assets. Obviously things are appreciating quickly now. Will they hold? I don't know, but eventually the rents are going to start climbing to catch up with that.
It's fascinating you say that, because I hear a lot of people, and some people look at me crazy saying very similar to what you just said, which is most people, when they start to scale up, they start thinking like, oh, single family was so 5 years ago for me. Like, I'm now multifamily, right? And single family, I don't buy that anymore. It's too much of a headache. Well, you've seen both sides of the spectrum. You've been on the single family side. You've been doing multifamily as well. Why are you buying single family in this case?
Yeah, it's single family and small multi control. Assets I completely control. Yeah, because if you think about it, the syndication, I mean, there's an immense amount of leverage there. You and I were just talking about this pretty recently. Like, I can leverage an expert operating team, their market knowledge, their ability to get credit and lending, all of their systems, and their ability to leverage other investor money to access large assets.
Yeah.
However, if I need money in 3 years during the whole period, guess what? It's not like I can go sell that on the open market. It's locked up. I think it's worthwhile to have a balanced portfolio, right? Because single family and multifamily, they're technically what we call uncorrelated assets in the real estate space. So they move a little bit differently from each other.
That's very insightful. I love it. Okay. So you're moving into a little bit of single family just to balance out the portfolio, but you still have both, right?
I do. Yes, very much so.
Absolutely. So what is your next in life that you feel like you're going for?
Well, travel. Honestly, we are so excited, and hopefully in the next year or two to get back to traveling the world. And this time during COVID, I understand there's been winners and losers and challenges all over the place.
Yeah.
We've all faced them. And I feel like, we've just really been heads down on trying to stabilize our portfolio, harvest the equity that we can, reinvest as much as we can to expand our cash flow. That way, when things safely start opening up for at least us and our family, for us to be able to travel, we can be entirely location independent and start checking off some of these bigger life, bucket list dreams, like going to Africa and New Zealand. And New Zealand's on our hot list. We just, we've got a lot more challenges. I mean, New Zealand's got to be able to welcome us too.
New Zealand's a little locked down right now. Yeah.
So, but those are things, I mean, we're really excited to, show our daughter the world. We did a lot of world travel before, we actually came off when the world locked down, we were coming off of travel to Mexico.
Mhm.
And we just really are super excited to, continue to show our daughter the world. So
I love it. Living the dream.
yeah. And then also, in tandem to that, creating an impact.
Yeah.
How many lives can I touch and just show them the power of, on a smaller scale, what you do, just, the power of looking at your finances differently than what we're taught and trained to do. And, how can you get into, anybody, realistically can get into real estate. It's not for somebody who has like $1 million or a college education or anything like that. It's a business that anybody can start.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, last question for you. Like, what's that for those that are listening here? Maybe they've saved, been a really good saver. Maybe they've been paying off their home even that, but that's really like the main asset they have is their house. And they haven't really gone serious into doing all these alternative investments. What would be your advice for them? What would be like something you would want to have told yourself maybe almost 20 years ago?
Open your mind. Find somebody to help you and open your mind. There's the adage is like, what's the quickest distance between 2 points? And most people say straight line. That requires that they have a plan and that they execute the plan perfectly. But what if you could actually fold that piece of paper in half and put the dots even closer together? You collapse time. And that means getting a coach, somebody that you can work with, that can lead you and guide you through this process. Maybe people resonate with the book Who Not How, right?
Yeah.
Find that who in your life that's going to get you from point A to point B much faster than you ever could yourself.
Interesting. Using mentors to create a financial wormhole.
Exactly. That's our work together. If I had executed perfectly and had the perfect plan laid out, could I have figured it out? Sure. Where would I be? I have no idea. I can tell you it wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
But that's what you're able to do for us is, just like spend time. Be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Point A to point B. This is the plan. And let's fold that paper in half. Get you there faster.
It shows you just what kind of nerds we are when we both know you're referencing wormholes, right? I'm sure we're not the only ones right now that are like, I know what you're talking about, Whitney. I had it before even Chris said it, but yeah, that was the image I had. Like, oh, that reminds me of my son talking about wormholes all the time. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. Is my in-laws gave my daughter some astronomy books and they were laying on the table and we were reading about wormholes the other night.
There you go. But that's a great visual. I like that. It's a different way to say than just the straight line concept, right? It's like, no, it's creating something that seems seemingly impossible, but it's about creating that acceleration, the old zoom there.
Acceleration, velocity, whatever you want to call it. I think I will say for me, a growth concept for me over the past year, and maybe you've already experienced this with your kids, but my daughter has been at home schooling for the past year, and I just seen just how rigid of a process it is. Yeah. Right. And I'm not getting into debate here, but it's I can now understand why I grew up with that mindset and how it took so long for me to challenge that mindset because I was ingrained in me. Yeah. Like you don't ask for help. you don't like copy somebody else's plan. That's cheating. But really that's how the greatest build businesses. Henry Ford, I was reading a quote by him, I think most people are pretty familiar with it. He didn't know everything about the car. He had everybody on speed dial that knew about the car. So that's what you need in your life are those people that can help you achieve the results that you desire.
I just had this image of Henry Ford like this on speed dial, like.
Yeah. Rotary dial.
That's right. It's like, good thing they only have 3 numbers in their phone number, Yeah. I love it. Well, Whitney, I really appreciate your time today. This is such great content, such great wisdom that you really shared with us today. And I know that there's many, many people that got a lot out of this, and we could probably even pull so many segments of this. We could even create its own shows just out of that. So really appreciate your time and your generosity.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you to you and Money Ripples for creating the impact that you guys have in our lives too.
Well, you're so welcome. Thank you. Well, everybody else, there you have it. Like, Whitney is just one person of few of the proud. Like I say, few of the proud. There's probably probably at least a few million of us in America that think like this and do these kind of things. But guys, like it really is about not just it's taking that learning, opening up your mind, seeing something different, and then acting differently. And Whitney's living proof of that, guys. Like she is proof that someone who did the very things you've probably been doing, and you could be doing it even better. In fact, you might be the only person in the way of your own freedom. So anyways, guys, ponder that, find ways to act and do what's going to create prosperity for yourself right now. Make it a wonderful and prosperous week. And we'll see you later.
Visit us online at moneyripples.com for more resources to help you fix money leaks and get your money working harder for you now.